court order.
Yes.
Now, in some instances, they may be able to connect because sometimes it's like, well, mom or dad is the one that signed the lease. So that's a different story. But I'm talking about if
Hmm.
you own a bank account, your mom and dad can't just go into the bank account unless their name is on the account. They can't contact your
Wow.
mortgage lender and get information about your mortgage payments or talk to the city about your liens on the property or anything like that. So if you're 18
Hmm.
years old and you have your own place or you have, your own money and your own things, it's important for you to have someone. So if something happens to you, you'll have someone that can actually step in and, check on your bills and talk to your
Hmm.
doctors about your medical care. So it's an important thing to have in place, regardless of how young you are, as long as you are of age that you can actually make those decisions.
Hmm. Okay. So my next question would be for those. Okay, we have a lot of listeners that are they're young singles, and they're young married. And so I want if you could take us on that spectrum with somebody basically that's say in their 20s,
Right.
30s, maybe in 40s, and then once they get married, some things that they need to do in regards to basic estate planning, and then also by the time they get of a certain age for retirement, as far as what are they looking at as far as estate planning.
Right. So young singles are the category of folks that I always have the most concern about, because I've had a number of cases where we can't even figure out where they had a bank account. We
Wow.
can't figure out what they owned, if they owned some property, if they had investments, if they were, in the stock market, if they had life insurance. We can't figure out what they had because as many of us, young folks do, um, you may not tell mom, dad, and everybody else about your business. You don't have, connections with them in that way. It's your personal
Mm-hmm.
information. So imagine you have a child and they pass away, they're in their 30s or 40s and they pass away and you have no clue. You don't even know where they were banking.
Wow.
That's a difficult thing. So and so I would say it's not just getting things like the power of attorney and healthcare documents or a will done. It's also planning out that information. You should have a list of all your accounts and your passwords somewhere safe. And you should have
Mm-hmm.
someone that is aware of where that information is. So wherever it is that you
Mm-hmm.
decide to tuck away your will and your power of attorney documents or whatever other, important papers, you should also have a listing of all, because we're in a technology age. Everything's
That's right.
electronic. So I'm not
That's
going to
right.
find letters in the mailbox that will tell me, all right, they had a bank account at this bank. So you now need to take the extra step of saying, you know what? I need to start jotting down a list of everything I own. Maybe putting the value down. If I have some valuable pieces like jewelry or artwork or things like that, maybe taking some pictures of those things, putting it somewhere safe so that if something happens to me, my loved ones will be able to say, all right, let me see. Okay, I see that she had a list of these things. Let me see where everything is and make sure I secure everything. But you can't do
Mm-hmm.
that if no one's sharing that information. So it's
That's true.
the whole thing about estate planning. It's a planning process, and it involves more than just preparing paperwork, because it's not the documents that's the planning. It's your
Mm-hmm.
mindset and the things that you put into place. That's the planning.
Mm. Wow. So how would you, okay, for people that are young, young married, if they're just getting married, what would be the first thing you would say for them to do as they just let's say that a couple they got married, and they're how soon after they got married would you say they need to start thinking about estate planning?
I think that should be part of their preparations for marriage. So that the moment that they
Okay.
get married, that they'll be ready to do certain things like get, their wills done and, any important documents, because you get married today. What happens if something happens to you tomorrow?
Yeah.
And if you're not having conversations with your spouse or your soon to be spouse about your financials, about your important documents, about what you own, you're already starting in a bad place, because now if
Yes.
something happens to you, guess who's the next in line? It's your spouse.
Mm, that's
So
right.
no matter the scenario, it's always at its core, what do you have in place in the event that something happens to you? Because something is always going to happen. The question is always when. So we know it's coming. We just don't know when.
Right. Absolutely. What would you say? How often would you say, as a couple, that they need to update that information and review it to see any type of changes they would make in a will or a trust?
So I would give 2 different times. The first time is anytime something changes. So if you buy a property, that's something important that you need to decide what's going to happen to that property if something happens to you. If you get some new investments, if you open some new bank accounts, anytime there's a life change or a financial change. And then the second point in time I would say is, you do your taxes every year, right? You look at your numbers every single year. That's a really good time to kind of verify, let me check and see that all of my beneficiary designations are up to date. Let me make sure I don't have someone that's passed away listed as a beneficiary, because that's a crazy area where those assets could become probate. If I put a beneficiary designation and that person dies, that's no longer a beneficiary designation. It's an account that doesn't have anyone to receive. So guess what? Your estate has to receive that. Okay. And that's it. As long as there's no language in the agreements that you have with whatever those financial accounts are, because some financial accounts will pay out depending on what it is to, like your spouse or something like that, or your children. But others, they'll pay it out to your estate. So they'll make the check out to your estate, and someone's going to have to open a probate to get those monies.
Okay. So, and while it's doing that, it's incurring fees, legal fees, and state and county tax fees for probate, right?
I mean, you're definitely going to get legal fees increasing as you wait to do certain things. And then, every state is a little bit different when it comes to certain processes in probate. Some nuances are a little bit different. I can only tell you that in Florida, the sooner that you do things, the better. The more that you let things linger and lag, you're going to find yourself incurring more expense and decreasing that pot of money or assets that you have in the estate.
Okay. And so what about also, a lot of times, especially in African American and people of color families, they will have they may not officially adopt a child or a kid, but a kid comes to live with them. And how would you say they need to how would that affect their family living situation as far as in estate planning?
Well, the key for that type of situation is if you actually want to leave something to someone who's not biologically your child, it's critical that you make sure that you put that information into a will. Or better yet, if it's an account or something or life insurance or something like that, make sure that you put their information in the mix and list them as a beneficiary. Because the problem is, if you don't list them, they're technically not a biological child of yours. And unless you adopted them legally, they're not your child. Even if you, if you hold them out to be your child. Now,
what's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try. If you're shopping while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast, then you know and love the thrill of the hunt. But are you getting the thrill of the best deals? Rakuten shoppers do. They get the brands they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Urban Outfitters, Samsung, and Adidas, and even stack sales on top of cash back. It's easy to use, and you get your cash back through PayPal or check. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten.
Understand every state has different laws and regulations, and sometimes there's some
Right.
nuances around this. But generally
Right.
speaking, if you're not someone's child, unless they've actually explicitly listed you, you're not entitled to technically receive.
Wow. So that means that if for example, someone came, someone had a child, and that child, they passed away, and the person that passed away had a will and said that they were in expectation of their friend or neighbor that wasn't a blood relative to take care of this child, and the person agreed to it, and they held them out as being their son or daughter. Legally, they couldn't. When that person passed away, they could not, this was specified that this non bloodline child could receive anything. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, now I've seen some weird situations. Sometimes there's some laws that are put through, and some case law that shifts the game, because maybe the family knew this person to be a child of that person his whole life. Maybe he was listed on birth certificate somehow. We never know what the circumstance is. To be on the safe side, if that is your intention, you want to leave something to someone who's not biologically your child, then again, you have to keep in mind that the writing is what matters. If there's no writing, we're going to go according to state law, and generally state law is going to go down those bloodlines. Okay.
Wow.
So it becomes tricky if you don't have a writing in place.
Okay. So then, as a couple ages, would you say or advise them to be setting up some kind of way so that if their children, say they were going into an assisted living, or if their children were going to take care of them, would you say that they needed to put something in writing so like you said, to prevent, as a preventative measure, if they were getting like Alzheimer's? Because I mean, just off the top of my head, I can think of a couple of people I know where they were seen after. I mean, their parents were doing great, and then one of the parents developed dementia, which is like Alzheimer's, a part of Alzheimer, and sometimes they were there, and sometimes they weren't.
Right.
And so now, what in that case scenario, what would you advise?
They definitely need to make sure that they have paperwork in place long before we get to these stages. However, if you find yourself in a position where, unfortunately, mom or dad or whatever loved one you're caring for ends up having something like a dementia, Alzheimer's type condition, guardianship is likely going to be your path.
Okay.
Guardianship, again, is a court process also, and there's two pieces to it. One is to make sure that there is a determination made that this person is incapacitated. So it's one process in the mental health court. And once there is a determination made, then a guardianship can be had. The key with the guardianship process is understanding that the person is going to have rights until the court determines that they are incapacitated. So they're going to have an attorney appointed to them. There's going to be a panel of physicians that are going to do their individual reports and evaluations. And you'll have an opportunity to make your argument to the court of why you believe this person is unable to handle their medical and financial decisions. Now, keep in mind, the reason for the guardianship to be set up is to ensure that there's some oversight by the court of that person's, monies, their person and their property.
Wow. So I guess it's kind of in that same vein. If that sounds like something that they should prepare for even before such a thing like that happens, such as if they have insurance, if the insurance is going to go to their state if they don't have a beneficiary, then by
Right.
law, their insurance, the profits from the insurance the funds from the insurance would go to their estate. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, yes.
Hmm. Okay. So what if it gets that far? Is there anything that say a child of someone that's in an incapacitated state, and they had that particular thing in place? Is there anything that they could do if it got to that point where that person, their parent was, if say they had two parents and both parents were incapacitated?
If you're shopping while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast, then you know and love the thrill of the hunt. But are you getting the thrill of the best deals? Rakuten shoppers do. They get the brands they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Urban Outfitters, Samsung, and Adidas, and even stack sales on top of cash back. It's easy to use, and you get your cash back through PayPal or check. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's RAKUTEN.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn, we match. Unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
I know you said about having a hearing. What is there anything that they could do to after it's happened? I know you said that they have to go to a mental court to make a decision about the judgment of the particular parent or the parents.
Right.
And then as you said, the children would make an argument in regards to about the mental state, the things that they witnessed in regards to these. Is there anything that the children could do, like a clause or something of this nature, in like a living will or a oral will?
Well, I mean, the children, you're talking about the children of the person who is incapacitated.
Yes.
I mean, there's not really much that they can do in terms of making any changes to, their parents' documents. The key to understand is, the guardianship will be in place to appoint someone, whoever it is. It could be one of the children, it could be multiple children. But the guardianship would be in place to make sure that someone is appointed who is going to be receiving some kind of court order that gives them the authority to do certain basic things with court approval. So they may have a budget that, every month they have to pay these bills and, they get a budget and then they have to take a court order to the bank every month, or, they may have certain activities that they're going to have to perform, like, checking up on them at the nursing home, or, managing any, caregivers and things like that. So it's almost like you have a job. That's what I almost feel like describing it. It's like you're a case manager for your own parent or your loved one.
It sounds like it, a job. I just is really something. I had a question that was texted to me, and the question is asking, what if it says, what if the parents are if the parent is living with one of the other siblings, and they want to, their assets would be depleted if they were to they spend their assets on getting care and that kind of stuff, but they could actually apply and get what they call Medicare or Medicaid. Is there any way to protect those assets, or to either put those assets into a trust or a blind trust, or what type of trust, if any, could they do so that parent could be eligible for that type of aid?
So the type of process that parents typically go through to qualify for government type assistance is typically what they call Medicaid planning.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, there's certain things that Medicaid counts as assets. And then there are
Mhm.
certain things that you can do by, working with an attorney who specializes in Medicaid planning, to protect certain assets. Because, you're entitled to generally have the home that you live in. You're entitled to
Okay.
generally have something like a vehicle. There's certain things that don't exclude you from eligibility with Medicaid. And so, it's critical to work with someone who specializes in that. That's not something I specialize in, but I will tell you that there are there's a list of things that you generally can do depending on how much you need to qualify. And a lot of it is just based on, how much you're receiving every month in benefits, how much you have in the bank, how many assets you have and what the value of the assets are. Because the reason someone wants to qualify for Medicaid is so that Medicaid can pay for their medical care. Because, a
Correct.
nursing home, I have a couple of clients that are in nursing homes right now. Nursing homes can run a few thousand every single month to 7, 8,
Yeah.
9, 10,000 a month. You have different types of and levels of facilities. So
Mhm.
if you don't already have long-term care plans in place and you don't already have, a sizable pension or other monies coming in every month, many will have to qualify for Medicaid in order for them to have certain nursing care. So, I would say definitely if a trust is something that you're able to get done, early on in your lifetime, or even, at least before you get into your retirement age, it's helpful
Mhm.
because there's a lot of things that you can put in place into your trust and preserve funds, so that you'll have some money over the years to really handle your care. And depending on how your trust is established, some, depending on the level of assets, some may qualify still for Medicaid type benefits. It's just
Mhm.
it's a case specific type thing.
Mm. So it's a case by case basis.
Correct, because it all
Okay.
looks at the dollars and cents, and depending on where your dollars and cents are, there's different strategies that different people are eligible for. But again, it is based on those individual assets and whether or not Medicaid counts certain assets or not.
Mhm. Okay. And the next question I think was, if you have a family and you have two children that are, as a matter of fact, one question was a child that's handicapped, and one of them says is they have autism and cerebral palsy.
Okay.
Is there, or so just in generally, if you had a handicapped child, because I know that you have experience because of your nephew, how would you suggest that a couple or parents, how would they handle that in their estate planning?
So the beauty with trying to plan for special needs planning is that you already know that you're going to need some, long-term care. So at least you have an idea already that I need to prepare for a long haul. The difficulty is figuring out what types of things you want to put in place for your child. Because the question is always going to come down to, how much money is it going to take to care for your child over the years? What type of living arrangement is your child going to have? Are they going to live in a family home for their lifetime? Are they going to live in some kind of group home setting? Are they going to live with other relatives? Because special needs planning requires some attention to a bit of detail. Because if your child is going to have monies, so let's say, for example, you decide to put life insurance aside for your child. If your child's going to have monies, then it may be important to look into having a special needs trust or a special needs trust provision in their revocable trust. Because remember that when you have a child with special needs, oftentimes many families receive some kind of support, some kind of benefits from the government.
Right.
And in order to qualify for those benefits, it's important for that child to not be receiving an excess of funds, because those funds are supposed to assist them. There's certain funds that are supposed to assist them with certain things. And if you're going to create a trust for this child, your trust is going to supplement what they're receiving from the government. So it's going to make sure that they can travel, they can get certain treatments and therapies, They can, have kind of like, their social activities and the other things that they will need to pay for, because you have a special needs child. You may need respite care. You may need transportation. You may need special caregivers, special treatments, equipment. Those are all things that would be supplemented by what you could put aside in a trust, because they're not going to be covered by the monies that you're going to get from any kind of government assistance. That's bare minimum, right? So you're going to need a substantial amount. So the beauty is you can put some things aside and establish some supplemental needs trust provisions that will allow you to have monies that are basically seen as supplements to any kind of governmental funding. And the language of that trust is going to allow you to be able to protect those funds for your child, so that they'll always have those extra dollars to, keep them and care them in the long haul.
Wow. Well, before I ask you another question, I'd like for you to give your website and your an email and a phone number, or if you have Instagram, for our listeners, because we do have listeners in all 50 states and also in other countries, if how they can get in contact with you if they had they want to get a consultation, or if they wanted to speak with you in regards to what they're hearing on this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Sandy Boisseron. I am with Spectrum Law Firm Miami. Our office is out of Fort Lauderdale, and our website is www.thespectrumlawfirm.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Spectrum Law, and on Facebook at Spectrum Law Firm Miami PLLC. Oh, and let me see. I should give my phone number, right? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, that would be nice.
My number is nationwide 888-959-8264.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn, we match. Unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
Okay. Do you charge for a consultation, an initial consultation? Is there a charge for initial consultation, or is it gratis? Is it free, or what's kind of your fee schedule for that?
So depending on the type of case, so for estate planning cases, we do charge a consultation. It really depends on whether they're sliding scale or regular. We also have, when it comes to guardianship, because I deal with a lot of special needs families, I typically do a 15-minute free consultation. And then also when it comes to probate, you're calling me at a time of need, so I do a 15-minute consultation. And then I just quote you the price for whatever the services that you're looking for. If anyone's calling my office from listening to this radio show, I will also honor that 15-minute consultation.
So basically they're calling you, telling you they heard it on KBRG.
Absolutely.
Broadcasting on Success and Succeed, that you will give them a 15-minute free consultation. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, the next thing I want to ask, because I know that you're good at this, is contracts. How, Success and Succeed, we have a lot of the listeners, they're entrepreneurs. And what would be one of the basic things you would say to them as far as dealing with contracts and about having an attorney on their team?
Oh man, this is something that I struggle with a lot, because I interact with a lot of entrepreneurs on a regular basis, because I'm an entrepreneur myself. And one thing that I learned over time is we don't do contracts. We don't prepare the stuff properly. We leave a lot of open-ended things, and we think you know what, I'm just going to go on these websites online and get these free forms. The problem is those free forms are literally just that, some free forms. You have to be able to input language that will protect you. And those free forms are not intended for your protection. And so I feel like for young entrepreneurs, for old entrepreneurs, we just don't plan out these things. And we think that we could just put a dollar sign and write a receipt and that's a contract. It's not it. You have to make sure that you have very clear, ironed out information. And if you're going to do a contract on your own, do your research. Go online, look up sample contracts, go to the library or go to the library online, pull out books on contracts. And if you're really going to do it yourself, then you need to put in that work to do it yourself. But I always suggest that you at least consult with someone. There are attorneys for every price bracket. So consult with an attorney about your specific situation and get some basic contracts in place. So if you sell a product or you sell a service, there should be some terms, some conditions, some disclaimers, some things that will protect you, protect your business. And then also, I can't stress enough the importance of having other professionals to work with. You should have an accountant once you start to make some money, or even before you start to make money. Consult with an accountant and understand what you're going to need to do so you don't mess yourself up for taxes and you don't miss out on these opportunities like PPP loans. Because many of us as small business owners and entrepreneurs did not take advantage of PPP loans. And they were a great opportunity for you to pay yourself a salary while you're trying to continue to build your business. So contracts, critical. If you don't have any contracts and you're doing business and you're collecting money, you are setting yourself up for liability. Complete. Like you're just opening the door for someone to sue you and you don't even have a piece of paper to say, look, Your Honor, this is what my contract said. You don't even have that. That's important.
Well, as an entrepreneur, what would you say would be the basis of setting up a team, and who would you have? Who would be the first person you would get on the team? As an entrepreneur yourself.
If I were to go back in time and start all of this over again, the first person I would have involved on my team would have been an accountant. The second person that would have been a part of my team was going to be a bookkeeper. And the third person would have been somebody to handle marketing. Any marketing, social media, promotions, event planning, somebody to really put out information, because we don't realize how important marketing is until we don't get any more clients coming in.
Okay. So that's the third person. And the fourth person would be your attorney?
Fourth person is absolutely my attorney. Actually, they might even be in the meeting with me and the accountant before we get going. They might be even more important.
Okay. So it's all about how you prioritize. Now, are you, as an attorney, are you working with any clients that did you by chance that were trying to get the PPP program, payroll protection plan program, or the EI is economic injury disaster loan, EIDL loan? Or
I did not work with any clients, in that regard. But I know in talking to a lot of folks who own businesses, a lot of my colleagues who own businesses, many folks were like, "Nah, I'm not even gonna bother. I don't think I'm gonna even get it." They didn't bother.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was a process. I understand that it was a process. I listened to folks talk about it during the first cycle as well as the second cycle. I know it was a process. It was a lot of paperwork and stuff to do. But one thing that it exposed was the fact that many folks don't have their books in order. And the core of the PPP program is payroll. So if you don't have a QuickBooks or a Gusto or FreshBooks or whatever it is to really organize your payroll and pay yourself as a business owner, you missed out. You missed out.
Wow. So you actually yourself, you went to another professional to see about it for your own self, all right?
We actually did it through our bank. So, I think it's important to have a great relationship with your bank, because they already know you. That's where all your money filters through. It was a process, even though we were doing it with our own bank. But
Uh-huh.
you know, it worked out in our favor. So I think I saw a lot of folks talking about not receiving, but I also saw a lot of folks talking about that they received it, and it's a benefit because that's one less headache. You get a little something. It may not be a lot of money, but you get a little something to supplement your pay and allow you to continue to float because the pandemic hit everybody in one way or
Right.
another.
Right.
So
Okay. Again, I'd like for you to give your contact information. If you can be so kind to give that to us again. For those that
absolutely.
didn't get a chance to write it down.
No problem. So again, I'm Sandy Boystron. I am with Spectrum Law Firm Miami out of Fort Lauderdale. And my main number is 888-959-8264. Again, that's 888-959-8264. Our website is www.thespectrumlawfirm.com. And you can find us on Instagram at Spectrum Law or on Facebook, Spectrum Law Firm Miami PLLC.
Okay. Are there any words of encouragement or any words of advice that you would give to someone that is a new entrepreneur that you would say could definitely be a benefit to them? Like you said, if you had to do it all over and you had to go back and talk to the 20-year-old Sandy
Right.
that's just starting out as an entrepreneur, is there any words of encouragement or anything you would tell our listeners?
I would say many of us have a lot of ideas in our head, and that's where they reside. Just start.
Mhm.
Just start. Start something.
Mm.
Get it started.
Okay.
Map it out. Even if you don't have all the tools and the resources, we have the great old internet at this point. You can find just about everything that you need, and you can
Yeah.
start a business with $0 but your name. Just
Wow.
get it started. Open that Facebook page up. Once you start to make a little bit of money, figure out some things with your accountant, get your attorney in line, but just start it and
So
take that
basically,
leap.
sounds like you're even starting with a sole proprietorship.
If they have to, sure, because I know sometimes people are like, oh man, I have to spend a couple, $100-something to register a business and I got to do all these things. If you have to, sure. But I would say if you're going to do it that way, please be careful about the monies. Calculate what you're spending, calculate what you're making, and make sure that everything, keep your receipts. Because what you want to do is take advantage of the tax advantage. You don't want to lose out on, I spent all this money, but I don't know what I spent it on. Keep track of your expenses. There's a lot of apps and programs that will help you do that so that you can get the benefits, the tax savings of being a business owner.
Yes. Wow. So, because I know that as having a business, would you say that there was some almost like estate planning for the business? Because that would be another part in estate planning if the client had a business and it would be about who their share was going to if they were the owner of the business, and having that area in their will or trust mentioned, and then having it all worked out.
Yes, so there's something called business succession planning. And basically, it's making sure that you have all of your business documents in order, not just the operational piece, but the piece that says, if I want to separate from the business, this is how it works. If I want to share my interest in the business, this is how it works. If I pass away, this is how it works. So it basically irons out, much like your will and your other documents do for you individually, it irons out your plan for your business interest and the business operation as a whole. So that's something to look into if you are a business owner, to make sure that you start to work on that. Google it, look at the paperwork, figure it out, talk to your attorney if you can. But you do have to do some things for your business to make sure that your operation just doesn't fall apart the moment that one of you becomes sick or something happens.
Okay. You know what, Sandy? I really would like to have you back on the show and this is a short period of time to have you expound on some things with regards to business.